Good afternoon, Darren Jamison, Capstone Turbine Corporation. Going to go through our January 2021 Investor Relations presentation. Capstone is really about the changing global energy markets. A lot has happened recently with COVID-19 and the new presidency in the U.S. as well as the rest of the world. I like to say that a quote from J.F. Kennedy saying, "Change is the law of life, and those who look only at the past and the present are certain to miss the future." And the future of green energy is going to change. Frankly, in the U.S. starting Wednesday as the new president takes office. He's going to join the Paris Climate Agreement again, along with 120 plus other countries. And they're going to see more of a push for green energy, for hydrogen, for energy efficiency, and different technologies. And I think this is something that's happening globally and will continue to happen. As about a third of the U.S. population today, as well as globally, has grown up with climate change. And as those younger folks become architects, engineers, consumers, voters, they're going to push for greener energy and a better climate. Also, I think the COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted some of the impacts man has on the planet. Here in California, we saw clear skies. We saw wildlife return to our parks and our neighborhoods. We also see the negative side of that with fires. Obviously, we've seen storms. If you look at Europe, you saw areas where, again, smog was much better, traffic was much better. You saw clear canals in Venice. And so I think people see the impact that man has on the climate. And if we can change the way we do things, including energy, the positive impacts that can have for us. So Capstone is all about saving money for our customers and, frankly, saving the planet. So over the last 2 years, we've saved about $500 million in financial savings and 718,000 tons of carbon. And so we'll announce here April 1st our next year's savings, but I'm sure we're going to be over 1 million tons of carbon and closing in on $1 billion in financial savings for our customers. So quite simply, we look for customers that are dense energy users and can benefit our technology the most. And so the better that we can lower their energy bills, lower their carbon output, then the better off everybody is. And so that's what we look for. This picture here you see, and also on the cover, is Mohawk Carpet and Tile. This is actually a large tile and carpet plant down in Tennessee. And this installation, this is a 5 megawatt CHP installation. So we're making electricity cheaper than they can buy from the grid. And then we're taking the heat from the machines and using it in the tile making process, almost like a big kiln. So they're big energy users, obviously, from the heat from the boilers they normally would be running, as well as electricity. But this can be a hotel, this can be an office building, this can be anybody who's a large energy user, both typically 24/7, 365. All machines are meant to run continuously for up to 20 years. So you see the machine here. This is our 200 kilowatt building block. Quite simply, we're kind of like an energy conversion device. We take different fuels in, we create electricity, and then we can make either chilled water, hot water, steam, or direct drying. Then our system efficiencies are 33% electric and can be as high as 90% total system efficiency. And it's that total system efficiency or energy efficiency in general that gets us our carbon savings and our financial savings for our customers. So the units are small, they're modular, they're quiet, they're lightweight, and they have one moving part. And so very similar to fuel cell technology, just at a lower price and a little more flexibility. We can operate the machines remotely. We can start and stop them quickly. They can be dispatched. We do better where there's thermal energy requirements, and fuel cells do better where it's electric only requirements. So benefits of the technology, low emissions, again, similar to fuel cell emissions. We have the lowest combustion emissions in the industry. We meet all the current emission standards worldwide, including California's CARB emission standards without any after treatment. We can obviously add after treatment to get even lower levels of emission if we so needed to. Patented air bearing technology, we have 112 patents, which kind of goes both ways, good and bad. In some ways, it's obviously good to block people from entering the microturbine space and competing with us. To the flip side, it makes it harder for us to get customers to understand the microturbine technology. If you look at wind, solar, fuel cells, there's multiple players, and they've actually educated the market more and have a bigger footprint than we do today. But we're working on that, and we're doing a lot to improve our standing in the industry and convince more customers and really educate more customers. Like wind and solar, we're inverter-based, but we have one moving part. And so very, very unique technology, no lube oil, no antifreeze, no grease, one moving part, inverter-based. And so we can run up to 20 years with very predictable maintenance. In fact, we'll offer up to a 20-year service contract today. We call it FPP service contract. We'll talk more about that. High power density, because we turn at 96,000 RPM with our small machine and 63,000 RPM with our bigger machine, we're very small, very compact, very light, which is important because a lot of our installations are existing buildings. We're going on the tops of skyscrapers. We're going into areas where weight and size is very important to our customers. Standalone or grid connect, unlike wind and solar, we can run without the grid. And so we are a technology that can be base loaded 24/7, 365. We can run in parallel with the grid, but if the grid then falters, we can run in backup mode or standalone mode, as we call it. And so why that's important, if you're a hospital, if you're a hotel, if the local grid goes out and you need to keep taking care of your customers, you need to keep your operation going, our product gives you that kind of backup power feature. Typically, we size it for the critical bus, so life safety, elevators, computers, refrigeration, things that are critical to the ongoing performance of your business is how we size the machines. Fuel availability, that's something that's changing quite a bit. Primarily in the past, we've been a natural gas driven product. Today, I'd say 70% of the 10,000 units out in the field are running on natural gas, but we're seeing a big push into renewable natural gas, into biogas, and obviously hydrogen. And we'll talk more about hydrogen in a few minutes. But definitely we're seeing fuel change. We want to be as fuel agnostic as possible. Frankly, we're going to give you ultra low emissions and very high efficiencies regardless of the fuel. And not everybody has access to the same fuels at the same cost. So we want to pick the best fuel that gets the best emissions, the best carbon footprint, and obviously the best financial performance, because being green is great, but making green also is very important to our customers. Free clean waste heat. Again, unlike fuel cells, wind and solar, we give you thermal energy from the combustion process, and so energy intensive businesses that have boilers, chillers, hot water, steam loads, direct drying loads are much better suited for our technology. If you think of a hotel, we use the thermal energy off our microturbine for the kitchen, for the laundry, for heating the swimming pool, space heating, and then we can also make air conditioning with an absorption chiller. So again, people that are using thermal energy for either heating or cooling or steam or the manufacturing process, it's a great fit for our technology. Even though we have one moving part and no lube oil, no grease, no antifreeze, and very reliable product, we still want to remotely monitor the machines. And so we've got about 65 distributors in 73 countries that are monitoring the performance of these machines, doing maintenance when required, and then making sure that the customers are getting the best financial performance as they can out of the product. So very, very important. We don't need operators for any of our products, but we do like to remotely monitor, make sure they're running and really getting the value for the customer. Scalable to match demand. Almost all of our machines are sold in arrays of multiple units. We do that for multiple reasons. One, it gives us more flexibility. We can start and stop individual machines. It gives us more resiliency that if one machine is down for a repair or maintenance, you still have the other units running. And so if you look at internal combustion engine, it could be a 12-cylinder industrial engine. If you lose one cylinder, one spark plug, you lose the entire megawatt. We have a 5-unit solution in our megawatt solution, so I can have one unit down and still have 800 kilowatts at any given time. And so our machines are set up to be able to repair a machine and keep the other ones running. And any machine can lead and the rest can follow its lead. So it gives really better, more robust solution, more uptime, and more financial savings, more environmental savings. So growth is important, and I think like any business, and so we've had our growth spurts over the years. We've done a lot in oil and gas in the past. We're doing more energy efficiency and renewables today. We really want to hit on all cylinders, and I think we're close to doing that. And so obviously with the old administration that's leaving, they left the Paris Climate Accord. Green energy wasn't as topical of an issue and didn't put a lot of money into it. I think that's going to change under the new Biden administration. There's talks of putting $2 trillion into green energy. So we're very excited about that opportunity and the U.S. rejoining the Paris Climate Accord. We're also seeing it in Europe. We're seeing it in Australia. We're seeing it in Asia, Latin America. We're seeing a big push to green energy efficiency. Low-cost natural gas is very clean fuel. We can burn it as clean as anybody, if not cleaner. And so where there's low-cost natural gas, that gives us better economics and drives more adoption of our technology. And so we're very happy with the cost of natural gas in most of the world. Microgrid adoption, if you don't know, microgrids are taking multiple energy sources and putting them together kind of behind the meter. And so we see a lot of our projects are solar panels, microturbines, battery storage. We did one a couple of years ago that was one of my favorites with Sierra Nevada Brewery. Sierra Nevada up in Chico, California has 2 megawatts of solar panels, 2 megawatts of Capstone microturbines, and 1 megawatt of Tesla batteries, and almost completely off-grid. And in that case, we're actually running on the biogas you get from the beer making process. So complete kind of closed-loop system. We're running off the biogas in the beer making process. We're putting steam back into the process to help create that biogas, as well as providing about 70% of the energy they consume at that location. We're focused on reducing costs. Again, being green is great, but making green makes the world go round. And so we want to be environmentally benefit our customers, but also financially benefit. And so we look for customers that want to reduce their operating expense. We look for very heavy energy users, and we look for 5-year paybacks or less. New engine emissions. Any kind of emission changes helps spur our customers to look at our technology. We're seeing it right now in the marine industry. We've just done a couple marine applications. It's kind of a new market for us. We saw Volkswagen a couple of years ago cheat on emissions. Obviously, if the whole world was California when it came to emission standards, we'd have much bigger business. And so the more that we move toward lower emission standards, the better. The reason all the car companies today have electric vehicles and electric vehicle platforms is they see the death of the internal combustion engine. They see eventually meeting those emission standards with internal combustion engine is going to be too challenging. Some states and governments like here in California are even saying they're going to ban internal combustion engines by 2035. And so you're going to see more of a movement toward getting rid of the old-fashioned internal combustion engine. Green building, if you are in New York today, if you look at One Vanderbilt, which is one of the newest, tallest buildings in New York next to Grand Central Station, that's got 2 Capstone C600 microturbines for 1.2 megawatts, providing electricity and thermal energy in that building. The 2 buildings in Hudson Yards, one is complete, one is under construction. Both those have 1 megawatt of Capstone microturbines. This is something we're seeing, with green building or LEED, we call it here in the U.S. And so as more architects and engineers and building owners and REITs want to be green and they want to have green spaces and green buildings. To get to the highest level of LEED certification, you need on-site generation and energy efficiency devices like Capstone. So very excited to be part of those marquee projects, whether it's FMC Tower in Philly or One Vanderbilt in New York. Severe weather, nobody hopes for severe weather, but obviously if people lose utility for a significant period of time, that tends to drive customers to look at our technology. So whether it's fires here in California or hurricanes or flooding on the East Coast, that actually does drive opportunities for us. Electrification, we're doing projects in the Middle East and Africa, parts of India where there is no grid, or the grid is very unreliable, and so that's obviously positive for us. And the more of that happens worldwide, the bigger opportunities we're going to have for technologies like ours. In many of those cases, we're running on biogas, cow manure, chicken manure, pig manure, or even propane or butane. Gas flaring regulations, we're seeing a lot of gas companies actually self-impose gas flaring regulations or come up with their own goals, both in the U.S. and internationally. I'm hopeful under the Biden administration we'll see gas flaring regulations here in the U.S. We've seen them in Russia, we've seen them in Europe, we've seen them in other parts of the world. Gas flaring, to take the natural gas you get when you drill for oil and to not use that in a microturbine or some other technology and just flare it adds to global warming and is not environmentally smart or economically smart. So the more that develops and the more oil companies want to decarbonize the oil patch, the more they want to be really better players when it comes to the environment and ESG and those kind of things, that's going to help for us. And then crude oil prices, we still have crude oil, or the oil energy industry is our second biggest market today behind energy efficiency and ahead of renewables. So that market is important to us, and if oil prices are over $50 a barrel for a significant period of time, we see uptick in that market, which we're starting to see right now as oil prices are over $50 a barrel. So next month or two, we'll probably change at least that one to green, and hopefully gas flaring regulations under the new administration will also be green. Revenue growth strategy, there's lots on the slide, so I won't unpack the whole thing, but basically the new direct sales organization, we're trying to leverage the work our distributors have done globally. So whether it's Magna International, Pepsi, Marriott, any of these big kind of Fortune, DHL, big Fortune 1000 customers that have tried our technology, that our distributors got a local project done, we want to take our new direct sales organization and leverage that to a larger rollout, to a large, wide-scale adoption. So unfortunately, we started that direct sales organization last February, right before COVID hit. And so as COVID subsides and we get more vaccines, that new direct sales team will pay more dividends for us. And then new geographic locations, you're seeing projects all over the world. We're about 50% U.S., 50% rest of the world today. We're doing projects now in Eastern Europe, Africa, Middle East, and setting up new distribution to cover those areas. So like I said, we're up to about 73 countries today, about 65 distributors, and we'll continue to build out the distribution organization. I've done a lot of digital marketing over the last year because of COVID, because we couldn't do on-site, kind of lunch and learns or trade shows, and we really, I think, upped our game from a website and customized campaigns. We've actually sponsored an IndyCar. We've got a new branding strategy, and we'll continue to leverage our digital marketing because really it's an inexpensive way to tell our story and get it out there. And so if you're not following us on social media platforms, please do, because we put a lot of information out there, as well as case studies, video case studies, and additional educational materials. We had a bad part we got from a supplier. We're fortunately to be moving through that, and I'll show a slide in a minute to kind of emphasize that, but that's going to help our margins, and that's really improving our business year over year, even despite COVID. The last 3 quarters have been 3 of the best quarters of company history. And I'll talk more about hydrogen and renewable natural gas in a couple of minutes. So I'm going to keep going through this. Again, a lot on this page, but this is really our adjusted EBITDA initiative. Our goal for the year was to improve our adjusted EBITDA loss by $10 million. So essentially from $13.5 million last year to $3.5 million or less this year. We've done pretty good. You can see the chart here that we've accomplished most of the things we set out to do. Obviously, COVID has impacted a couple of these, especially the reducing direct material costs. Very challenging in a COVID environment to do that. And then our aftermarket spare parts in our UK facility was impacted by COVID to finish that remanufacturing facility in the UK, which is just now being completed, as well as our rental fleet was impacted by COVID. So we're still on track to get these things done. It's just taking a little longer because of the COVID environment. But in general, we still plan on being very, very close to that $10 million improvement year over year despite COVID. You can see Q3 last year, we are March year end, so very happy to see kind of the return to growth despite the COVID environment we're all living in. Obviously, when we've got hotels and hospitals as end-use customers, oil and gas customers, very challenging in a COVID environment, as well as construction schedules were definitely impacted. But I'm proud to say that quarter over quarter, we're up 38% for our December quarter. We recently pre-announced, and 18% year over year. And so that just shows that despite COVID, we're doing great things and we're growing the business. So when COVID subsides, we'll see even higher growth rates. Balance sheet. The most significant thing here is in the middle of COVID, we managed to refinance our Goldman Sachs 3-year term note. And so we lowered the interest rate almost in half and then added $20 million to a $30 million note. And so you can see from September to December, our balance sheet strengthened from $16.8 million to $32 million. We haven't announced the rest of the balance sheet metrics. That'll be in the February 9th call, but definitely very happy with Goldman Sachs, happy to have that note increased, lengthened, and lowered the interest rate. So I mentioned before, our margins have been impacted negatively in the past because of this bad part we got from a vendor. We're getting to the end of the legal process with them and hope to have a resolution here shortly. But very excited, more importantly, to have happy customers and be getting these parts out of the field and not be impacting our margins as much as we have in the past. This chart really just shows our aftermarket or our energy as a service gross margins and revenues. This really isn't a forecast. This just shows our historical performance and then growing our long-term rental fleet. So part of the Goldman Sachs new note is growing our rental fleet from 8.6 megawatts to 21. So this just shows what that will do for our business by just increasing the rental fleet from a margin and revenue standpoint. This doesn't have any other revenue growth factors in it. So again, not a forecast. But it does show you that orange line, which is the important line, is our margin percentage. And we think we're going to be pushing 50% margin here in the next couple of years. And so going from 30% in 2020 to close to 50 in 2022 is very, very key for us. And why is that important? We really want to grow our business on long-term recurring revenues. And so that's our spare part sales, our factory protection plans, our long-term rentals. We charge our distributors a subscription fee, which is 3% of their prior year's revenue. It's obviously high margin recurring revenue as well, and then other service revenue. So as we get to the point when this energy as a service revenue covers our entire OPEX, then all product sales go to the bottom line, which is kind of our goal. And that really insulates us to downturns in the economy, changes in energy prices, oil prices, the dollar, COVID, whatever it may be. If we're profitable every quarter from our recurring revenue, that puts us in a very strong place, and actually puts us much further ahead from a profitability standpoint than any of the fuel cell companies out there at much lower revenue levels. So hydrogen product launch, I'll go through this for a couple minutes, and then I want to obviously turn it over to ask some questions. We've been working on a hydrogen solution for several years. We now offer a commercial product that's 20% hydrogen and will actually go as high as 30% in special occasions. We've already launched our first machine into the market in Australia. In the lab, in combination with the DOE and U.S. National Labs there, Argonne National Labs in Illinois, we're running at about a 70% hydrogen to natural gas blend. Then we have a goal to go to 100% hydrogen. And so this is a process, and we'll work through that over the next couple of years, depending on how quickly the market opens up for hydrogen. But we are seeing a lot of countries looking at blending natural gas and hydrogen together in the pipelines. We're looking for ways to create hydrogen from assets, renewable assets that are out there and have too much energy. So I think there's a lot of push for hydrogen. You hear a lot more about it in the U.S. under the new Biden administration. We're already seeing it in Europe, especially in Germany. In Japan, they're talking about it. Australia is pushing hard for it. So I think hydrogen is going to be a big piece of the global energy economy going forward, and having the ability to run on hydrogen blend and eventually 100% hydrogen will be key for Capstone. We've already patented our hydrogen injector. Because of the flame speed and the molecule size, it will take a different injector for us. We will modify our fuel system and do some changes to our package, but that's already in place, and it's just a matter of working through the product development process. As I said before, you've got wind, solar, biogas, and hydro. Part of the challenges with some of those renewables is you can't control the output, and you often have excess energy when you don't have enough of a source to take that energy. So if you have that excess power, you can put it in an electrolyzer, create hydrogen, and then kind of smooth out the energy curve and make sure you don't lose that excess power and turn that into more value for the end user and obviously more savings for the environment. So we're very excited to be part of that. And again, we think we're uniquely situated to be able to run on multiple fuels from natural gas to biogas to, again, cow manure, pig manure, chicken manure, agricultural waste, landfills, wastewater treatment plants, and then now blended hydrogen and eventually 100% hydrogen. So with that, I will open it up for questions. Obviously, there's lots more information on our website and a lot of things you can find if you just follow the company on social media.
Great, Darren. I'll take it over from here. My name is Mike Heim. I'm the energy analyst for Noble Capital Markets. I encourage people to jump in with questions. There's a little bubble down in the lower right that you can click on. We've already got a handful of them in, but I'm going to start out with a couple of my own, and that is to kind of back up for a second and just kind of talk a little bit big picture. You talked about fuel cells versus microturbines. Is there other competition in the microturbine space for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple other smaller microturbines out there. We probably have 80% market share, and because we've got so many patents, it's very challenging for them to do the things we do with the one moving parts and the air bearings and the combustion that we have and the power electronics and digital controls. And so we're pretty alone in the microturbine space. We've actually looked at taking out some of the competitors over time, and the technologies just are inferior to ours. And so we really see, depending on the market you're in, we see the utility as being the biggest competitor when it comes to our energy efficiency space. We see Caterpillar in the oil and gas space, and then biogas. There's a whole smattering of different technologies out there that can compete in the biogas space.
Where are the big players like a Siemens or GE or something like that? What are they doing?
GE actually tried to build their own microturbine unsuccessfully, as did Honeywell and a few other folks. They still use internal combustion engines in this size range, which is something that we think is a kind of a short-term solution.
And who are the bigger fuel cell players?
Obviously, Fuel Cell Energy, you've got Ballard, Plug. Fuel Cell Energy is probably the closest to us. Bloom, as I'd say, is also closest to us as far as the markets they're in. Fuel cell tends to be larger scale projects that are on the other side of the meter, on the utility side of the meter. Fuel cells are great for electric-only solutions. We do better if you have thermal energy involved. If you look at Bloom, they're similar in size and they kind of play in the same space, except again, they're better for people that are 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day, aren't 24 hours a day energy users, and people that don't need thermal energy. So a fuel cell could be 55 to 60% efficient. We're going to be half that electrically. So if it's electric only, they'll do better. But then if you add the thermal energy, we can be high as 90%. And then we're about a third the cost of fuel cells today. So that's one of our advantages is our technology is much cheaper than a fuel cell. We also make money on our aftermarket. A lot of the fuel cell companies are losing money because of cell stack life and issues for the kind of long-term serviceability and costs of owning the product. We make a lot of money on our service contracts and continue to make the product better. And our goal is to make money on the back end of the technology and the service contracts as well as our customers making money.
So with the thermal, you talked about hotels, you talked about the brewery, which I guess I assume is more using the heat for drying. Tell us more, what are some of your biggest customers and where you see things going in the future?
Yeah, no, it's everything from, shopping malls, any place where you have air conditioning, where you have heating loads. If you have, obviously hotels are big, plastic companies, you can have manufacturing, then automotive. And so you don't realize how many automotive manufacturers or industrial customers are using steam. They're running boilers, they're running chillers. Hospitals have big heating and cooling loads, both hot water, chilled water. And so, any place like that makes sense for us. What's more challenging is like a box store, like a Walmart or something like that, where you've got not a lot of heating and cooling loads, not 24 hours a day typically. And so that's really where we look for. We're getting bigger energy users. Obviously, the cost of energy is important. So if I'm from Seattle, not a great place to sell microturbines because you got a lot of hydropower up there. But in California, New York, any place where utility rates are double digit, we're doing projects in Tennessee, down through the South, Texas, a little bit in the Midwest. So as energy rates go up and natural gas prices stay low, then that spark spread, improves the economic performance. And so, and another thing is really just educating customers. A lot of customers don't realize that, energy is their third biggest spend or fourth biggest spend until they do their homework and say, well, gee, my electrical bills are this, my boilers cost me this, my chillers cost me this, I've got a backup generator, a UPS system, and then I roll that all together and realize, oh, wow, that's a big spend. Maybe I should be doing something more thoughtful in managing that spend and do something better for the environment.
I want to get into the utility angle in a little bit, but let me get some of these questions from the audience. First one, do you have any machines in Iceland? I guess they're going at thermal, but you're not really, thermal's not an input.
No.
Do you do anything in Iceland?
We don't have anything in Iceland. We've got stuff on the North Pole, the South Pole. We're in, again, 73 countries. A lot of places, they use us almost like a boiler that makes electricity if you've got, huge steam loads. We do have a couple kind of beta projects working right now. Let me have a slide in here to go to it real quick. We can use thermal energy to drive our device, and so B&K is actually using kind of wood materials and doing different things to drive the microturbine, as well as we've got a 24/7 solar working on a solar version of the machine. So we don't have to put actual fuel into the machine. If you can put superheated air into the machine, you can accomplish the same thing. So there are some zero emission, zero carbon solutions we're working on with partners. But I'd say these are kind of a little further out technologies for us.
Okay, and then someone asks if you have any units in Las Vegas.
We just sold a 4 megawatt solution in Las Vegas, and so it's Resorts World is a brand new hotel, casino, resort on the Strip, and so yeah, we're very proud. That's our biggest installation in Nevada, obviously, and obviously the biggest in Las Vegas. So 4 megawatts is a pretty good size installation for us behind the meter. So very, very excited about that. And that's one of the things that people don't realize is we've been around for quite a long time. We ship 10,000 machines. But certain markets like Nevada, like Las Vegas, are just starting to open up to us where power rates are getting to the right levels. Texas, parts of the South, we had done very little in the past and are starting to open up. One of the things that, the Biden administration wants to do is more green energy. Green energy does cost more today, and so the more states go to green energy, wind, solar, fuel cells, that's going to increase the price of your utility bill, which is going to make our projects that much more compelling, frankly.
Well, now you're jumping to exactly what I was going to ask. As more people in theory go off the grid and the regulators move more and more of the cost structure for the recovery for the utilities to, set monthly fees, that just raises, creates kind of a downward spiral thing that makes things more attractive to you. So I don't really have a question because you kind of just answered it a little bit.
No, and that's what we've seen where utilities are doing a great job by being green, but the cost of energy is going up. Then the casual consumer is okay, but the large energy consumers whose businesses run around a lot of energy consumption. So you're a plastic company, you're a hotel, you're an office building, where that's a big chunk of your cost structure. Yeah, you need to do something to lower the cost. I mean, there's a lot of California customers who wouldn't be in business today if they didn't have microturbines, because the amount of thermal energy and electrical energy they consume is just so big that they couldn't be competitive otherwise. And so, so that's part of the balance is we want to do a good thing for the planet, but we also have to have large energy consuming businesses be able to compete globally and stay in business, frankly.
But just to repeat what you said, this is a product that can work completely off the grid?
Yes, that is correct. So we can run in parallel to the grid or off grid. Most of our oil and gas applications are all off grid. There's no utility there. And so, yeah, absolutely, we can run in standalone or grid connect. We can seamlessly go back and forth within a quarter cycle, so barely flicker the lights as we transition. Yeah, so definitely off grid. And a lot of our customers, who are big energy users, we tell them don't go 100% off grid, still keep the grid, but then try to lower your energy coming in 80%, and then create your own thermal energy. In fact, size the plant around your thermal energy. So if you look at the Palace Hotel in New York at night, we're almost 100% of the energy produced. They hardly bring anything from the grid in at night. During the day, at the peak times in the morning and 4 or 5 o'clock, we're probably 60% of the energy that they consume. But all the thermal energy from the microturbines is going into the swimming pool, the showers, the kitchen, the laundry, and they use all that thermal energy.
I want to jump to the hydrogen side, which I've kind of thought is a nice little dream that might be somewhere down the line, but you're hearing, Airbus talk about it, you guys talk about it, it's maybe not as far away. You talked about 20%, maybe 30% blend, working towards 100. Is it a technology change that needs to be done to get up to 100, or what needs to be done?
Yeah, hydrogen has two issues. One, the flame speed is very, very fast, and so it burns very quickly, and so we need to change our injectors and our fuel mix and our controls to manage that. And that's not, every fuel we run has different flame speeds, different, BTU contents, and so we're capable of doing that. It's just a matter of doing the engineering development work. The other issue with hydrogen is it's one of the smallest molecules, so it leaks quite easily. So we got to think about anywhere we have fittings in the fuel system needs to be gone. We need to weld everything up. We got to make sure that we put leak detection in the package, probably air handling to evacuate any hydrogen leak that we would have. And so it's things like that. It's nothing that we can't do. It's really just a matter of engineering effort. Argonne National Lab has been a great partner for us to help us because they can safely run on hydrogen and help us characterize how the flame speed's going and emissions and all those good things. So we've got a long history of partnering with the U.S. Department of Energy, and we'll continue to do that through the hydrogen program.
So you're really describing a system that is very customizable to, that's not the right word, changeable to the customer. Is it a long process between when you get the deal and when things are up and running?
It really depends on the customer more than us. I mean, I can build our megawatt machines, which is $1 million box in 2 days. So that's not really the holdup. It's really how fast is the customer. So if you look at one Vanderbilt in New York, that we sold that project 5 years ago and shipped the microturbines a year ago, right? So I think that they had to obviously demo the existing structure, dig a hole for the foundations, and then start building a 70-story office building. So that doesn't happen quickly. Other customers, if they've got existing locations where they're retrofitting the building, we can ship the product very, very fast. And so it's really what's the customer's lead time, what's their schedule look like. If you look at the hotel casino we just talked about, we got that project, probably took us a year to get the order, but we shipped it within 6 months. And so that's pretty typical. I think our average, touching a customer to getting a PO is about 13 months, and then we usually ship within 6 months. So it is a capital business. It is a longer cycle business. We use Salesforce.com. We can see what all of our distributors are doing, how many leads, opportunities, quotes, and we obviously can run a whole bunch of KPIs and see how they're performing.
If things were to really take off, what's the biggest bottleneck in terms of production?
We're running at about 20% capacity today, so we can definitely crank up production, 4 or 5-fold. We'd obviously add a little bit of headcount, but because we're selling through distribution, and we're not installing the machines ourselves, our distributors are doing that work and doing the maintenance work. We could ramp very quickly. Our biggest issue would be parts, right? So we have to. The supply chain ramp up would be the thing that would limit us. But I think we could easily double revenue very, very quickly. Now, if you want to go 3, 4, 5x, that's more challenging from a supply chain standpoint, but we could get there. It'd just take us probably 9 months.
And you're really hitting things globally here. Are there parts of the world that you see will grow faster than others?
Yeah, I think, when it comes to energy efficiency, Europe has always been a leader. And so I think, Germany's a great market for us. Italy, Spain is picking back up again. The UK are good markets, but I think all of Germany, all of Europe is I think very open to green, to hydrogen, to lowering their carbon footprint and emissions in general. But we're seeing, the Middle East open up. We're seeing where they're actually looking at trying to curb their flaring of associated gas. We're seeing opportunities in Australia, Japan. We just had a nice project in Korea. So definitely I think it is a global phenomenon, but people move at different paces. I think if you're in Africa, you're looking to get off diesel. You're not trying to get to hydrogen. You're trying to get to propane or butane or a renewable fuel. And so it just depends on where you are. The Caribbean is turning into a nice market for us from both the resiliency and a lower emission standpoint. And so, every country is in a little different spot politically and environmentally, but we want to be with them and kind of help them, solve their problems and give them lower cost energy and obviously lower carbon footprint energy.
We've got a question in here. Are you allowed to promote who has the units in full operations? You've named a couple names at all, but are there any restrictions in terms of promotions?
Yeah, so if you look at almost all of our press releases, it's very rare that we mention a customer's name. Twofold for that. One, from a competition standpoint, we're a small enough company, we don't need our competitors or the utilities or somebody coming in, when we just sign a deal and try to, stop the deal. So if I would have, mentioned the Palace Hotel before I had them installed and running, I could have had a chance of having a competitor come in or the utility come in and try to lower rates and kill the deal. And so we tend to talk about units that are already up and running. And at that point, once they're installed and the project's running well, then our customers usually let us do, case studies, video case studies. We're also sensitive not to bother our customers by overly promoting. But again, we just had a shareholder that visited Mohawk Carpet and Tile installation down in Tennessee. And so we'll do customer visits, sites. But again, I know a lot of shareholders want to know every time we get an order who bought the product, but that's not good for our customers or our business.
And then you've talked about a movement towards more service, and I like the way you described trying to get that to a level of covering operating costs. How close are you to that level, and is that a trend that you see continuing?
Yeah, that's definitely a trend you see continuing. If you look at this chart, we're showing that we're getting to close to 35 million in aftermarket. You can see on the outer years there at 50%. Well, if you can get to 40 million a year or $10 million a quarter at 50% margin, our OpEx is running between 5 and 5.5 right now. So you can see we're kind of moving in on that magic. I call it 100% absorption. So very, very close. Obviously, the spare parts sales, the bigger the fleet gets, the more it ages, the more spare parts we'll sell. The factory protection plans are between 5 years and 20-year contracts, and so we're adding those faster than they're obviously expiring. And then long-term rentals, I mentioned we're growing that from 8 megawatts to 21 with support from Goldman. And then the distributor subscription fee is 3% of their annual revenue. So as long as our annual revenues are going up, that fee income is going to go up. And so each one of those should continue to grow every year. And then, again, the remanufacturing center here in California and the UK just helps lower that kind of cost of goods in doing those activities. And so the more we can remanufacture existing parts to like new condition, the cheaper and the better the margins become in this energy as a service business.
Great. We got 1 minute to a hard stop. I wanted to get into the question about, you talked about the vendor legal process. Is there a chance if you get a favorable outcome that there might be a one-time gain?
Yes, that's our goal, is to get a one-time gain, and so we're probably in the seventh inning of that process out of 9 innings, and so we're hopeful to get a recovery from the. You can see the impact quite clearly on our business, and that's just direct financial impact. That doesn't talk about brand impact or repeat sales that we lost because of this bad part. So we are looking to get a one-time gain and a settlement out of it. Absolutely.
All right, terrific. Thank you so much for doing this. By the way, you're participating in an energy panel we have tomorrow afternoon at 5:15 if anybody wants to tune into that. But again, thank you for doing this presentation.
Thank you, Michael.